So good afternoon, everyone. This is Audrey Russo, President and CEO. It's Friday of the first week of November. It's been a long week, but we are very excited to have Rich Fitzgerald, County Executive, back with us. This is the fourth time he's been with us since the middle of March when we kicked the series off. And I'm very excited to be able to have him on the show, and deep appreciation for the time he takes with us in this across the tech community and beyond. So we launched the series at the beginning of the pandemic to help keep the community connected, and the world-changing innovation that's going on in our footsteps. We really are trying to make sure that we're giving you relevant information each and every day. And today it couldn't be better by having Rich join us. And I also want to thank Huntington Bank. They've been with us across the entire journey of supporting us and being a sponsor and making sure that we're reaching the audience of Pittsburgh and even beyond. So they have been great partners right from the onset of COVID, and they help us with almost anything we do that's innovative, this being one. I also want to give a deep shout out and appreciation to the team at AT&T. They've been a close partner of ours for a long time at the Tech Council, and we work together on many issues around public policy and help facilitate regional conversations on matters that affect the businesses and the tech ecosystem. And throughout the pandemic, they've been really incredible, making sure that they are there to be a part of the infrastructure and make sure that that people have access. They've been out and trying to be in front of it right from the beginning. They are huge supporters of the food bank, 412 Food Rescue, and they even help with Neighborhood Allies as we try to bridge the digital divide. So deeply appreciative to the work that AT&T continues to do and is our partner. So we've muted your microphone to make sure that we don't hear anything in the background. And we've actually enabled the chat session to allow our guests to submit questions. And Brian Kennedy and Jonathan will be managing those questions. So our guest, as I mentioned a moment ago, is no stranger, not just to this series, but to the collaboration in the work that we do across the region. And that's County Executive Rich Fitzgerald. So I want to make sure that we start by addressing really what the elephant in the room is, okay? So the elephant in the room after this week, Americans have had a long week with the culmination of the presidential election. And when we invited County Executive Fitzgerald to join us, it was under the auspices, and this is true, under the auspices of understanding about the pandemic. So with that, we really won't be asking or accepting any election related questions today, except the first question that I plan to ask right now. So Rich, thank you for joining us. I've said thank you enough times. You know that I mean that. You've been a good partner and a great ambassador. And it's impossible to completely avoid the topic of the current election and the county's role in the process. And we're gonna talk today about all the pieces of operations that actually fall underneath the county executive's responsibility. So you can really understand the span of the work that he leads and how important it is. So I'm going to ask the question right now. How's the process going in terms of counting the votes right now? And what challenges are you encountering?
Well, there have been many challenges throughout. The biggest thing, and thank you, Audrey, I want to thank you for having me and Brian, the whole team. And also, let me also give the kudos to Huntington and AT&T. Mm-hmm. I can tell you, Susie Shipley and her team over at Huntington, they always reaching out. Right. What can we do for the community? Jim as well, AT&T. Thank you, Jim Penna, and your work. It's the kind of collaboration we have that makes things work. But yes, obviously a very, very emotional and very divided election that we've gone through for a number of months and maybe even longer than that when you think about it. And really what happens at the county level in the operations is people are processing lots of paper. Mm-hmm. This is the first time that we've gone to paper ballots, that we've gone to mail-in ballots in the kind of volume that we have. So they've been processing, upwards of 370,000 mail-in ballots. And it's just a very tedious process. They've been working long hours. They've been working shifts overnight, middle of the night, leaving things probably at home undone that need to be done. So the folks that, if you know an election worker, thank them. They've been doing really a great job in doing that. We've probably got well over 95% of the ballots counted. The remaining ones, I think, is about 35,000 are ones that maybe got mangled in the mail and need to be fixed so they can be put through the scanner. The check, some of the ones that were provisional ballots and ballots that were sent to the wrong addresses. This will be a more tedious process. It'll probably, because they have to do most of it by hand. So when you think about handling 35,000 pieces of mail by hand, we're probably looking at a few more days till all the votes are counted, maybe even by the middle of next week. So, and again, the big thing I always say about elections, once they're over, we got to come together and work together. And it's what we do well here in southwestern Pennsylvania. So some of our candidates won, and I don't just mean, obviously we're focused on the president, but we had congressional races, we had state Senate races, state House races, row office races. So, there's a whole bunch of folks that are going to be taking office. Some will be going back, some will be new folks, and working together for the betterment of this community. And when we talk about technology, the Tech Council, it really is about us moving Pittsburgh in a bigger and better direction, and making sure that happens. So you mentioned all the other departments that are part of the county,
Right.
Whether it be the health department, obviously during the time of COVID and the kind of meetings we're having now, things like the Port Authority, the airport, and all the other things that we operate. So they all touch our lives, whether we use them directly or not. All these things are important to us. So working together is a big deal.
Yeah, and listen, we've had the limelight right now with the elections this week, Pittsburgh's, in Allegheny County. I know that you were on CNN last night. I applaud you for being accessible, where the world is watching us, and we appreciate you repping the burg, as they say.
Yeah, you never know. 50 states, and it all came down to Pennsylvania. So that's just the way it rolls sometimes.
Right. I was sort of hoping like you would say, hey, everyone, come back to Pittsburgh. Tech is amazing here. I thought you'd slip that in, and I missed it.
I'm not done yet. There may be other opportunities. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm going to talk to your staff. Brian and I and Jonathan are going to give you like some cliff notes so that you can sneak right in.
There you go.
But that's just the salesperson in me trying to always look for that opportunity. But thank you for that. So let's start with COVID. Okay, we're reading about the daily updates. Dr. Bogan, makes sure that the updates are available every day at 11 o'clock, like clockwork, except for Sundays. Thank goodness she has a day off. But we're seeing the case count rise. You're seeing it rise to numbers that are back from, at the beginning, right? So talk about what you're seeing, where they're coming from, any hypothesis that you have, any scientific information that you can share for us.
Well, the interesting part of it is, I think most people, most businesses, most schools, most official operations figured it out. How people work in it, whether it's in an office, whether it's on a construction site, whether it's at a manufacturing plant, wearing their masks, keeping socially distanced, doing all the things that the Dr. Bogans and the Rachel Levines and the Dr. Fauci's, et cetera, have been advising us for a number of months. So when you look at the case investigation that gets done by our health department, very few cases come from, say, a school. Even in the collegiate campuses, we find very, very few cases among the student body that happens in a classroom or in the lab or in the cafeteria. I know they don't call them cafeterias anymore, but I'm showing my age.
What do they call them?
I don't know. Where you eat, places you go and eat, I guess we'll call them that. But where it occurs among students is in the gatherings. It's the after school, after evening, we're going to have a pizza party. We're going to study together. We're going to get together. And it's almost where we feel comfortable as people with our own family and own friends that we see where the cases go up. So when we go to the store, we keep distance, we wear our mask, we stand 6 feet away from everybody. That's fine. So it's not the official things that the government can really regulate, if you will. It's the unofficial things that are happening in people's homes. So that's where the cases are going up. So I think we've got to really continue to do a job of communicating, maybe a better job of communicating to let people know, just because you're with people that are in your neighborhood that you know who they are, you still have to wear your mask, because that's where the spread seems to be happening. Now, obviously, the weather is changing, more indoor activity. That's also puts things riskier than when you'd get together with your friends and neighbors in your backyard or at a park. So we really haven't gone through the cold weather cycle of this. When COVID hit in mid-March, spring was coming and we were going outside. So now it's the other end of the climate spectrum, as fall is going into winter, and we're going to be indoors. So there's a lot of concern about how we will handle this during the winter months.
Well, listen, I got to tell you, the weather is amazing. It's going to be 70 today. So the way I look at it is we're just pushing winter off for a few months, and hopefully people can have Thanksgiving
I'm with you on
outside.
that. That's exactly right.
Right. So, so you're right. We can't get fatigue. I think that's really what you're saying. We just can't
Yes.
get fatigue, even when.
And look, they're working, and I do think there will be a vaccine. You hear from all the medical experts, maybe next year, by the middle of next year. So hopefully we can see there's success that seems to be in all these trials that are occurring. They're occurring all over the country, including here locally. I'm in one myself. They tell me it's going well. So, there's hope out there, but you're right. We can't give in to fatigue and say, I've had enough. I'm not going to wear my mask anymore. I'm tired, because that's when things would go badly for us.
So do you think if what I'm going to say next is off, comments from Dr. Levine that about the approval emergency use is imminent? Do you think like perhaps in the next 4 to 8 weeks? And if so, what role will governments actually have in helping the distribution?
I don't know how true that is. I hope it is. But we will mobilize all assets that we have to distribute the vaccine. I'm assuming that the first run would go to the more vulnerable population, seniors and people with immune conditions, first responders, folks like that. But obviously, we'll do everything we can to ramp up the distribution. I know Dr. Bogan and her team have been planning on that, and they're doing some work that's more behind the scenes and how the distribution will occur. So those plans are being formulated as we speak. And then, once we implement it, it'll be all hands on deck. The one good thing, again, as a community that we live in, you will see everybody come together. You'll have the universities, you'll have the corporate community, you'll have the tech council, you'll have our foundation community, government at all levels, labor unions. You will see a response of people cooperating that has happened throughout this thing. And I'm very optimistic that we'll be able to do it very quickly.
I think education is probably the most important piece of this. I have no doubt that we'll be able to create, the momentum in terms of operationally deploy when it's available. It's the piece around education. So any thoughts around just that whole education of the vaccines? Because I think there are, people that are concerned. This is the first time out. Who are the people that will participate, et cetera.
I think what we're good at here, again, is I think because we have such a robust medical ecosystem with the University of Pittsburgh Medical School, Pitt, UPMC, AHN, St. Clair, Heritage Valley. We've got a real, and then of course you've got on the government side, the Secretary Levines and the Dr. Bogans, and at the national level, Dr. Fauci, et cetera. I think folks around here have listened to the advice that we've been given by our medical experts. I think that's why our numbers have remained better, relatively speaking, than places in other parts of the country. And I think hopefully that will continue, but there will be an ongoing communication that you'll see from Dr. Bogan when this does come available, how it will be implemented, what you should do, et cetera, et cetera. So there will be a very robust communication coming out of that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in all fairness, the numbers are up. The numbers are up now.
They are, but even though they're up, they're in other places they're up even more. Is what I meant more of a relative. But no, they're not. They're not good. I don't mean to minimize that at all. but it's almost a national and statewide trend that's just happening everywhere.
So let's talk about mental health. You oversee Health and Human Services as well. I really want people to understand the breadth of your responsibilities. So, they're really one of your largest teams, actually, is Health and Human Services. Talk about the work. There's been a lot of work that's been going on through COVID. And what are you seeing or what are you hearing from a mental health perspective?
They really are being stressed to a big degree, because there's a lot of mental health issues. There are issues of family issues of people like CYF, children, youth, and families, senior issues, because senior centers are not open. Seniors have been really isolated during this process, and obviously that's not a very healthy thing. And I think we all can relate to that, even within our own families, where an elderly parent or grandparent is we don't see them as often because they're not able to get out. And when we do see them, it's in a very isolated setting. So it is one of the things that we are concerned about. It's why we really encourage people to get out once in a while, do it safely, go for a walk, go to the park. We've been very, very forceful in making sure that our parks have remained open and people can recreate and don't get locked up as much as you have to during COVID, and trying to give good advice about how to go, whether you're going to go to the store, whether you're going to go to the restaurant and eat outside or have takeout, or there are things that we can do. But the Human Service Department under Director Cherna, they've been doing a lot of work, and they've got good partners. The United Way's been very helpful, among others, in the various agencies that we work with. But you're right, Audrey, it is very, very much a challenge. And it's a challenge that isn't really talked about as much as the cases and the hospitalizations and the death rate, et cetera, with COVID.
I know I worry about the isolation, and I worry about that as we go into the winter for those people who are most vulnerable.
Yes.
We've heard from nursing homes that actually the loneliness and the isolation has caused more damage than perhaps we really even understand.
Yeah, I agree. And Dr. Bogan talks about that all the time. And trying to balance that out is very, very difficult.
Right. And so that's why I'm asking you the vaccine question. So,
yes,
hopefully that they're the early adopters. So let's talk about some of the other authorities that you oversee. And, we've seen the airport pause the work on the modernization project. And simultaneously the Port Authority, who we've had Catherine on, talking about the Port Authority working to restore services while keeping its employees and riding, the public safe. So can you talk about both of those?
Yeah, and it's interesting because, these are two different, customer bases that you work with: people who ride transit and people who fly in air service. But the interesting thing is both of them are down about 70%. The Port Authority is down about 70% in ridership, and the airport is down about 70% in passenger service. And it's because of COVID, by the way, because neither one of them are restricted. I mean, you can fly, you can ride the bus, you have to wear a mask in both cases, but you can still do it. But people have chosen, for various reasons, obviously, to not do that. And I think that's a challenge for both Catherine Kellerman at the Port Authority and Christina Casotis at the airport. They've done a lot of good things to innovate and move forward. You mentioned the modernization. That will continue when the airlines feel more comfortable in signing off on, because they're in essence the ones paying for it. But she continues to move forward at the airport with freight and cargo, signing a major deal with a Hong Kong carrier that's bringing cargo and taking cargo back, that's creating jobs and making us a distribution hub. We know that along those lines, places like Amazon are continuing to build procurement centers, here, distribution centers, fulfillment centers here in Western Pennsylvania. And that's a big part of what Christina and her team will be doing. Neighborhood 91, the manufacturing that's going to go on with 3D printing and advanced manufacturing is going forward. Grabco just signed a big deal to do some of their manufacturing of the thousands and thousands of parts that they have worldwide that's going to be done here. So those things can continue and have continued. On the Port Authority side, the BRT is going to be moving forward. The development and the implementation and building that high-speed link between downtown and Oakland, our Eds and Meds and our corporate headquarters center through the uptown area continues to move forward. So a lot of the innovations that Catherine has brought to the Port Authority will continue. As people feel safer about riding, we have seen ridership start to go up a little bit in both cases, the passengers of the airport as well as the ridership on the Port Authority. We really haven't had any cases that have resulted in COVID from people riding the bus. The drivers or whatever, they may get it in other places, gatherings, vacations, things like that. But as far as the official going on a bus, going on the T, going on the train, that hasn't really, our case investigations haven't seen people who have gotten it there. When people ride the bus, they're wearing their mask, they're keeping distance, they're doing all the things that we learn. As I mentioned, it's not the official things we do, it's the informal gatherings when we let our guard down.
Yeah, we do. It's gone on for so long that we're fatigued. And so in terms of the airport, in terms of travel, while it might be down 70%, there actually is leisure travel. The 30%, I think, is actually leisure travel of people going places that really want to go places. So there is some level of confidence and need to try to see family members, et cetera. So I know that when you go to the airport, you get a chance to see more. The people aren't just carrying like a backpack, they're actually carrying bigger pieces of luggage. So I think there's hope, right?
There definitely is.
So what else, how do you think that we're doing as a region? Do you talk to other colleagues who have your roles in other places around the United States?
I do. And they, quite frankly, are envious because they see Pittsburgh continues to develop. Pittsburgh continues to attract companies. I get a lot of, what are you doing? How are you doing it type of it. And I certainly take that as a very big compliment because, again, our universities, I'll start with them, their case levels are way lower than some of the other major universities around the country. They've done a fantastic job, whether it's the University of Pittsburgh, our largest institution, Carnegie Mellon, Duquesne, Robert Moore, they've all really stepped up and put plans in place and implemented with their student body, with their faculty, with their staff. And that has, kind of spread out that they're still open for business. And all the tech stuff that we see that often grows out of the universities is going to continue. And the major developers who have continued to develop in Oakland, in Uptown, in downtown, at the airport, they're continuing. They've not pulled back and said, well, we're going to wait. No, because they see that Pittsburgh actually, I believe, is going to come out of this even stronger and better than when we went in. And we were pretty strong going in. I mean, Pittsburgh is certainly on the map when it comes to all these kinds of things. So we're going to continue to move forward with all those things. And I'm bullish on Pittsburgh.
Yeah, we're bullish. I'm bullish on Pittsburgh too. Jonathan just told me that there's some questions in the chat, so I'd like to go to that, please.
Rich, thanks again for hanging out with us today. We really do appreciate it.
Sure.
We'll start with a couple COVID questions, and we're going to jump into a non-COVID question. So first up, we have actually two questions from Megan Shaw. She wants to know, are you happy with the level of testing in the county? And also, is the county working on any programs to help nudge social norms related to wearing masks?
Yes, on the testing, I have been pretty pleased. We've been pretty robust on it. Dr. Bogan and her team have put out a pretty good program, and I think you'd always like to see more testing, but relatively speaking, I think it's been pretty positive. I actually want to say we've done pretty well on the mask wearing. I'd like to see that a little bit better, but I think most people have accepted the fact that wearing a mask is the patriotic thing to do. It's the good thing to do for your friends and neighbors, your family, because we know the mask isn't just about the person who's wearing it. A little bit it is, but it's more about the people that you're around. So it's almost, I hate to use this analogy, but I will. It's like smoking. probably not smoking isn't good for you. You shouldn't do it. But if you're going to do it by yourself. Don't do it where you're around a whole lot of other people that get affected by that secondhand smoke. So the mask is a very similar kind of thing where it's the people around you that'll be affected by you not wearing your mask in a crowded area. So it's about the courtesy that we all have for our fellow human beings, our neighbors, our friends, our family members, our coworkers, et cetera.
So on the non-COVID side of things, really curious to know more about the impact and movement of 5G to the Pittsburgh community. That's coming from John Scarpino from Pittsburgh Technical College.
We'd like that to move even faster than it is. I know that some of the companies are trying to work through the municipal codes in many cases. We don't, at the county level, don't have a lot of authority or non-authority when it comes to deciding where, when, how, all those kind of things. We're certainly encouraging our municipal partners to work expeditiously and not just put up road barriers or not drag things out. We'd like to see it happen. I just think it's so important when we talk about infrastructure all the time with roads and bridges. The 5G and our internet and all that broadband infrastructure is every bit as important as the physical infrastructure we talk about.
Absolutely. And Ingrid Cook, back on the COVID side of things again, would like to know how are we tracking where people are acquiring COVID in Allegheny County, and what do the case investigations consist of?
Well, there's a whole lot of folks at the health department who are both contact tracers and case investigators. Two little bit different operation. The case investigators are actually very well trained technically to, kind of delve into things a little more in depth. But it really is a person-to-person phone call. It's contact where the person who gets COVID gets contacted, and they try to find out where they've been, who they've been in contact with. Where do you work? Where do you, did you go to a party? Did you have a wedding? Did you go to a funeral home? Did you, all the different things to try to track what has occurred. So those folks are as thorough as they can be. And, for the most part, people are cooperative, but sometimes people are reluctant to answer certain questions. So they do the best they can.
Rich, you are a champ. You're taking these questions that are coming at you in all directions. And I got one other question at a whole other direction right now. So this is from Renee Farrow. She says she emailed her ballot and it was received on October 5th. And it is still saying vote recorded. Should it say vote counted? And she says she's not sure, but it's concerning her.
If they accepted her ballot, then they would have recorded. They would have voted. Yes.
Okay, been counted.
Yeah, they don't record the vote when they get it in October. They literally don't record the vote until election day. So the way the law reads, counties are not allowed to start processing ballots until election day, 7 o'clock when the polls open. The election departments are allowed to start, opening the envelopes, et cetera, making sure the signatures are there, and then starting to process it. So I guess you could find out at a later date that your vote has been quote unquote recorded, that you have voted. But I can tell you if they recorded it, it would be recorded. Received it, they would have recorded it.
So Rich, as we wrap up, how are you spending the rest of your day today?
I will be just monitoring what's going on over at the warehouse. I'll be in contact with, probably the county manager to see if he needs anything. How are things proceeding? Are there any safety issues? Are people able to monitor? Just all those kind of things. I mean, we still have a number of days until all the ballots are counted. It'll be a number of weeks before they are certified, not just in Allegheny County, but across the country. I know we all talk about election day and we get results, but in cases where the election is razor thin, where it's a very close race, there's probably a lot of ballots, could be overseas ballots that still haven't come in right now. So they begin a process, and then after a 2 to 3 week, I think it's 20 days after the election boards will certify. Then it becomes 100% official. So there's still a process of elections.
Okay, so we will stay close to you. Is there anything else that you want to say to the tech community? Anything that you think we should be thinking about and doing during these times right now?
Start with continue to follow the advice of our health professionals. Obviously, what you guys are able to do using technology to do work remotely, to do work in ways that others can't is helpful. So I guess most people were probably able to continue working in some manner, almost like the meetings that we're having today, and we'll continue that. So stay tuned, communicate with people, continue to work together. Again, the elections are over now. We're going to have new elected officials in some cases. Let's make sure we all work together for the betterment of Pittsburgh and the greater Pittsburgh area.
Well, I want to thank you. You can always follow County Exec Rich Fitzgerald on Twitter. He's pretty active. He even has a demo of his Halloween rigged PVC piping where he shoots candy down to the kids. He reminds us that he was an engineer, so that's why he has deep love for all of us that are inside of tech. And Rich, thank you for spending the time with us and being such a good partner on so many things. There's so many matters that affect each and every one of us, and really appreciate your leadership on that. I want to thank AT&T for their sponsorship and partnership on all things related to public policy and more, as well as Huntington Bank. And Jonathan, who do we have up next week?
We are launching the week with ENIAC Ventures, which was some first money in for companies like Airbnb. So we have Nital Mehta stopping by, really cool guy, and can provide some great insight as what they look for investments.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone. Stay safe. It's a beautiful day in Pittsburgh. And it's not winter here. And just be safe. Don't get fatigued, and know that we're going to be stronger. So see everyone on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Audrey.